Boop. Happy Thursday. Today is Thursday, March the 25th, 2021, and today's daily Bible readings come to us from Isaiah 7, 10 through 14, Psalm 45, or you could have read Psalm 40 and then 5 through 10 of that, and then Hebrews 10, 4 through 10, and Luke 1, 26 through 38. And if you're asking why so many verses, well, it's because it's Annunciation of the Lord. It's the Annunciation Day. What's that all about? Well, it's March 25th. 9 months from now, it will be December 25th. So this is the day we celebrate. We remember that time in which God sent his angel Gabriel, his messenger Gabriel, to announce to Mary that she was going to play this incredibly important role in bringing about God's kingdom here on earth, in restoring God's presence here on earth, by bringing the Messiah into the world, right? So that's why we call it Annunciation Day. So today I'm going to look at kind of several texts. I'm going to mainly talk about Hebrews and what's going on there, but also look at Luke and probably hit on Psalm 40 a little bit. We're going to start by talking about bulls and goats, and this kind of impossible blood, or this impossible task that the blood of bulls and goats were given. Hebrews is pointing out that, by the way, quoting Psalm 40 all the time, that the blood of bulls and goats was not sufficient to satisfy sins. It wasn't sufficient enough sacrifice to cover sins. It was never also what God desired. Once again, reference Psalm 40 here, that he takes no pleasure in it. So while it was the sacrificial system, like, offering up the blood of animals as covering, and by the way, just a side note, we as Christians tend to think that all sacrifice in the Old Testament and all blood sacrifice was all about, atonement and things like that. And that was a big, important part of it. But there was a lot more going on than that, So they were just like Thanksgiving offerings, friendship offerings, things like that. So we'll talk about that at another time if the moment arises. But God takes no pleasure in this. He takes no pleasure in the blood of innocent animals in order to cover up the sins of disobedient humanity, right? He doesn't take any pleasure in it. And once again, what about Leviticus? What about Exodus? What about, Deuteronomy and all these laws that are all about what animals you should give over for sacrifice? And if you remember correctly, because I know you've read the Old Testament multiple times, and good for you for bringing this up, is that these sacrifices were offered as soon as they left the garden. So what about all that? Well, isn't that what the law demands? And yes, that's the point. It's a stopgap measure. It's the result, once again, of humanity's sinfulness, disobedience, refusal to trust, refusal to listen, refusal to believe God's good intentions for them. And that's why God allows this and accepts it, but never desired it, isn't satisfied by it, and isn't satisfied with it. It's a result of our disobedience, and the law demands this, and God provides us a way, or provided us a way to offer this and let it stand in for what really was our own guilt and shame. So that brings the question, what does God desire? What does he want? Which is a good question you should ask every day. But what he really wants is willing obedience from humanity. He wants willing obedience from you, and he wants a willing obedience from me. Not just, kind of like, when you do stuff because somebody, asks you over and over again, or your parents ask you over and over again, or, and you do it just mainly so you don't have to hear it again, or so you don't get in trouble. God wants somebody who says, as once again Hebrews here quotes Psalm 40, see, God, I have come to do your will, right? That's what God wants. He wants people to willingly do his will. It is the willingness of the person to follow God's will at the sacrifice of what they might think, or they might like better, or think that is better because they decided to trust God instead. That's what obedience means, right? It means no matter what you think you like best, or no matter what you think would be the greatest thing for you ever, trusting God when he says, well, no, that's actually not the best thing. You should probably do this, and this is what I would really like to see you do. It doesn't mean you don't have the right or the freedom that he gives you to just say, yeah, okay, whatever, and go about and do your own business. But how's that worked out? What he wants is your willing obedience, your willing participation in the plan that he's working out, because he's going to work it out anyway. It's the willingness of the Son to offer his own body in obedience to his Father's will. That's what we see here in Hebrews 10:10. And it is by God's will that we have been sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once and for all. It wasn't really ever his will that we get into this cycle of offering the blood of bulls and goats to cover our own disobedience, but it was his will that we be sanctified through this incredible sacrifice that we're about to celebrate here in another couple of weeks. It's the obedience to bring it all home to this annunciation of the Lord. It's the obedience of a young girl who says, "Here am I, the servant of the Lord. Let it be with me according to your word." That's what God wants. He wants you to be willing to listen to him, willing to trust him, willing to follow the example of his Son, Jesus Christ, and set aside everything that you think is so important, and follow him instead, because he might just know what, in the end, is really the best for you. So anyway, that's the DBR for today. We'll be back tomorrow. Actually, Huggins will be here tomorrow with a great DBR for you. So go out, have a good time, and try to give God what he wants. Boop.